Good morning, traders. How are you all doing today? Karibuni sana. Glad you could all join us this fine Wednesday morning, although it is a bit chilly outside. Hope everyone is doing well today. So, for those who are new, my name is Mitch Kaniaro, and I'm a trader with Afriforex. I want to welcome you to another Afriforex daily analysis session. Now, you do know during these sessions, we as the Afriforex team, we analyze the markets early in the morning, we identify what trading opportunities we'll be looking at taking for the day, and we do share that information with you. So feel free to ask any questions or any queries in the chat box. The team will be there to respond to you, but I will also be looking and addressing any of those questions or queries at the end of this session. So let's jump straight into it. So we'll start off with our watch list as usual. Second. So starting off here with our watch list, we can see there's been a slight change to what we were looking at yesterday. Yesterday, our focus was looking for buying opportunities on the euro, the US dollar, and the Japanese yen. And we're looking to mix and match these three pairs with all the pairs on the sell side. So you can see that the Canadian dollar, the Australian dollar, Swiss franc, British pound, as well as the New Zealand dollar. Now, today, there has been a slight difference in terms of the pairs that we're going to be looking at. Still looking for buying opportunities on the euro and the US dollar, similar to yesterday. However, the New Zealand dollar and the British pound have moved to the buy side, and you can see the Japanese yen has also moved to the sell side. So our focus is going to be on these four pairs on the buy side, mixing and matching them with the pairs on the sell side before we do have a look at the indices, then gold and silver. So before we do end up starting, in terms of fundamentals, today we did have some New Zealand dollar fundamentals early in the morning, some yen news. That's the reason why both the New Zealand dollar and the Japanese yen have switched their bias. And now during the London session, we do not really have much in terms of fundamentals. You can see some speech happening for the euro. That's at 11:45, as well as some euro news at around 1, but that's not necessarily going to really have much of a big impact. But as you can see, the US session is going to be very active today. So at least we do know that there will be potentially some big moves during the US session. So before we do focus on today's pairs, let's have a look at the pairs that we did have yesterday that we're not going to be looking at today. Then we look at a few screenshots. Then we will focus on the pairs that we're going to be looking at. So we'll start off here with the euro against the British pound. Yesterday, our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. And you can see the areas that we had pointed out. Now, we did want the price to actually break this area to the upside and hold above, which you can see it did. You can see the price holding to the upside, confirming that it held, and that was at exactly 10 o'clock. So there was an opportunity during the Frankfurt market open where the price did manage to go to the upside. We did get a pullback, confirming that the price was holding above. And you can see just before 3 o'clock, unfortunately, this was around 2:30 or so, sorry, 2:45, where the market did end up bouncing off this buyer's area and actually attempting to go to the upside. But you can see the fact that the market hasn't really taken off anywhere. Remember, the British pound fundamentals are also potentially showing us some strength, and you could find this market ranging today. And that's the reason why it is off our watch list. Now, the next pair we did have was the euro against the New Zealand dollar. Similar situation with the euro against the British pound, where you can see the price did manage to actually break this at the upside, hold above during the London market open. So you can see at 10 o'clock and at 11 o'clock where the price attempted to go up. It mainly started taking off at 3 o'clock during the US market open, where the price attempted to go up higher. But the New Zealand dollar starting to show a bit more strength, the fact that the price came down, and you can see the price is just holding between these two levels. Seems like the market is ranging, this bounce between those levels. So unfortunately, even though the trade did work out yesterday, it is on our watch list for today. Now, the next pair we did have was the British pound against the US dollar. Now, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities, and we had focused on these three areas to look for potential sells. Now, remember, we did point out that the price was within this particular seller's area, and we did mention that, yes, even though we were within an area where the sellers, the fact that the buyers were coming in very aggressive. Remember, you did point out you do not necessarily want to cross a road when cars are coming full speed. And the way the buyers were coming in, you do not necessarily want to jump in on a sell there. You can see the price managed to continue going to the upside, held above. Wanted to see what kind of reaction we got within this main seller's area. And you can see the market attempted to grow multiple times. During the US market open, you can see the price came to the upside. Around 4:30 during the New York Stock Exchange, it attempted to come down, but we never got the price actually holding below. So if we did end up getting the price being able to come to the downside and actually confirming that it was holding below such an area, they could have been a potential sell or potentially waiting for the price to break below that area to actually look for selling opportunities. Unfortunately, the sellers did not necessarily come in. You can see the price breached to the upside, and once it was holding above, it did fall off our watch list. So even though the price, it does seem to be attempting to come down today, Remember, both the British pound and the US dollar being on the same side of our watch list. That's the reason why we're not going to be focusing on that pair today. Now, the next pair we did have was the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. Similar situation, bias here was to look for selling opportunities. And you can see we did end up getting a pullback. The price did end up approaching this seller's A, and you can see how many probes we did end up getting. The price attempting to go to the upside, coming down, and this was at 430. The main thing, you can even see based on the illustration, once the sellers did come in quite aggressively, remember, the main thing we would have been hoping for is if the price, sorry, apologies for that, if the price was able, sorry about that. So if the price was able to actually go to the upside and actually hold below this particular area, we could have potentially found a selling opportunity. Unfortunately, that did not happen. And you can clearly see once the price broke to the upside, we wanted to see whether or not we could get the price coming in a bit higher. Now, even though it did, then you can see the price attempting to come down. The fact that it did not necessarily take off, we know the US dollar pairs did end up showing quite a bit of strength. And since both the New Zealand dollar and the US dollar both showing strength, these are pair that's off our watch list. So unfortunately, no trading opportunity for us yesterday. Now, the Canadian dollar against the Japanese yen, there was a selling opportunity for us. We're meant to be looking for sales based on these three areas. Remember, the price was within this particular area and said we did need a pullback to come in. So pointed out that, yes, we could be waiting for the price to come back within the support and resistance area, but we always point out, buy with buyers and sell with sellers. And since we're looking for sellers, I had pointed out that there was an area where sellers did push the market down from within this area. And you can see, even though the price came to the upside going above, you can even see based on the illustration you had pointed out, you can see the price was within this particular area at 430. So if you did manage to end up grabbing a selling opportunity, that could have worked out. We're hoping to see the price potentially coming back in and holding to the downside. You can see it attempted to do that, but it was quite quick. It did not necessarily get towards that area before it attempted to come down. But you can see you do need to make sure you're managing your trades within these bias areas, but the price was never able to reach the hold below. You can see these are probed. Right now, even though the price has come back, remember both the Canadian dollar being and the Japanese yen being both on the same side, unfortunately, this is a pair that we're not going to be looking at today. Now, the next yen pair we did have was the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. Similar situation where our bias was to look for selling opportunities, and you can see the sales did work out. Did want a pullback to come in, wanted to see what kind of reaction we got within this area. Had also pointed out that there was an area of sellers right here, which you can see the price approached this location at around 3 o'clock, but the sellers did not necessarily react. You can clearly see how aggressive the sellers came in, not necessarily that much, before the price did manage to go to the upside. Now you can see the price managed to get back to the main sellers area at 430. So there was a trading opportunity during the New York Stock Exchange open. You can see as the price came down, there was a small pullback and attempt to come down lower. But the fact that we could not reach and hold below this particular area, you can clearly see the issues that you do end up getting if you don't necessarily wait for a hold, where the buyers came in very, very aggressive, coming back to the main sellers area. So unfortunately for us, it's a similar situation today. This is a pair that's going to be off our watch list. Now, the next and last pair for review, we did have the Swiss franc against the Japanese yen. You can see the correlation coming in with all the yen pairs, where during the London session, we did end up getting the pullback coming in. Wanted to see what kind of reaction we get within one of these sellers' areas. The first seller's area did not necessarily react. You can see the price managed to come all the way to the extreme seller's area. Similar situation, we did end up getting a very nice probe within this area, especially if I do end up going down to the 3-minute time frame. You can be able to see the fact that the market, once it did manage to go to the downside, you can see it pull back. There was a pullback coming in, confirming that the price was holding below that area, and there could have been a potential selling opportunity, making sure to market, or at least making sure to manage your trade within the buyer's area. So you can see this market actually managed to come all the way down, not necessarily get all the way back down within this main buyer's area, but you can see this level that we had pointed out where the buyers seem to have been holding yesterday. It seems that's exactly where the market reacted from. In fact, seems like it's bouncing between these two levels, and this huge move could potentially be some sort of probe. So unfortunately, even though the trade worked out yesterday, this is a pair that we're not going to be focusing on today. So hope that's clear for the pairs that we did end up having yesterday that we're not going to be looking at today. So before we do end up having a look at our trades, or at least the trades for today, let's have a look at the screenshots that we didn't manage to get. So we'll start off here with Alvin. Alvin, you did manage to grab a buying opportunity on the British pound against the US dollar. I know we're looking for sales, but the one thing I can see here, because you can clearly see, you did manage to grab a buying opportunity. Apologies for that. You did manage to grab a buying opportunity within this particular area. Yes, there were buyers there, which if we keep on mentioning, buy with buyers and sell with sellers, that's definitely a good thing. But in terms of where your stop loss was, you can see it was at exactly where the buyers did push up last time. Remember, we keep on mentioning if there's a firing spot shooting, ideally, if you want to hide away from the bullets, you don't necessarily jump or stand on the wall. You will hide behind it. So here, it's similar to you standing just on the wall. You're not necessarily protected. But remember, do make sure if you're putting your stop losses, hide them a couple of pips below the previous low, at least where the buyers have reacted from, because you can see you were just stopped out before the market did end up going. And another thing to take note of is the strength of the sellers coming in. Remember, we did point out you don't necessarily want to jump or cross the road when there's cars speeding at a very high speed. So it's a similar situation. Look at the aggression of the sellers coming down. They were coming down very strong. So at that point in time, even though you were buying within a buyer's area, you do know also need to watch out for that in that sense. So you can see later on, you can see before the markets were coming down. So let me try and zoom in a bit. You can see the markets as they were coming down lower. They were coming down within a very strong sellers move. You can see big one red candle, but then the next time they came down, you can see all those candles they were taking to come down. You want the sellers slowing down before looking for a buying opportunity within a buyer's area. But either way, it's very well done on this trade. You did end up grabbing the buy within the buyer's area. But keep up the good work, Alvin. Keep sending in your screenshots. Trust me, you will learn a lot more from this loss, and it will end up improving your trading. So very well done this trade, Alvin. So also next we did get George. George Chege did manage to grab a selling opportunity on the Australian dollar against the US dollar. Very nice sell right there at the extreme. It seems like you've been catching trades right at the extreme area. So very well done on this trade. You can see the price already coming down in your favor and your stop loss is already below your entry. So very, very good job on this trade, George. Keep up the good work that you're doing. Also, last, I did end up managing to also grab a buying opportunity. I know we've been asked many times, where are your trades, where to the trades that you're showing. I did manage to grab a buying opportunity on the US dollar against Canadian dollar. It was a very nice buy within the support and resistance area and did manage to go to the upside, still managing my trade, making it risk-free, but I did also end up closing some of my positions at the top. So I do end up hoping also this shows that we're not just here to end up just telling you what to do and we're not actually doing the same thing. So remember, guys, if you do manage to take any setups based on things that we do share, feel free to send them in to us. They should be, our contact details should be in the video description below. So let's focus on today's pairs. So we'll start off with the euro pairs, mix and match them with the pairs on the sell side, then move on to the US dollar, the New Zealand dollar, then the British pound, before we do have a look at the indices, then gold and silver. So we'll start off here with the euro against Canadian dollar. Right here, we were looking for buying opportunities. This was a pair that we did have yesterday. And you can see the three areas that I had pointed out. Now, in this pair, did point out that we did get the price breaching and holding above. There could be a very nice buy. Can see based on the illustration, we're thinking that it might end up happening during the US session, but you can see this was at exactly 10. Once the price breached and held above, you can see the price did start taking off to the upside. You can see later on, we did end up getting a small pullback just before the US market opened. You can see at 3 o'clock, that's when the market did end up taking off to the upside. So you can see the main move of this currency pair did end up happening during the US session. So today, the bias is still going to be looking for buying opportunities, although the way the market does look, and based on this huge move to the upside, it does, or at least based, our levels will be slightly different today. So this will be our levels that we will be focusing on. Now, one thing to take note of is, even though we have gotten a pullback, they do end up going up to a higher time frame, we'll be able to see this is just a support and resistance area. It doesn't matter how aggressive the sellers came in. You can clearly see we are still holding above this support and resistance area. However, we have identified that there is a level right here in the middle. Even though we could be targeting all the way at the top, there's a possibility that the price might not necessarily get all the way there, and you could find some issue within this support and resistance area. So overall, we will still be looking for buys, and don't necessarily be afraid of these sellers, because right now, the sellers, yes, they came in aggressive and there was a pullback, but look at the way the sellers are coming in now. They're definitely slowing down in comparison to this. So this has definitely incited very many people to look for sells. Remember, most of the time, the price was all the way at the top. Guaranteed most people were jumping in on buys all the way at the top here. And this must have stopped them out. And we'll wait to see what ends up happening. So overall, we'll still be looking for buying opportunities. Let's see if we can get some sort of probe or price action signal within here. Show signs that the big boy buyers are actually interested. If we do end up seeing that, we should be able to manage or at least take a buying opportunity. Do make sure you manage your trade within this support and resistance area first. If we are able to get the price reaching and holding above, that's when we should be able to get all the way to the top area. But be aware, as long as we're holding above the red SNR, we will still be looking for buys. So don't be surprised if the price decides it's going to come down and hold below before you actually find the price taking off to the upside. So do watch out for that. And remember, if the price breaches and holds below the red SNR, this pair will fall off our watch list. Now, the next euro pair we do have is the euro against the Australian dollar. Similar situation, the euro pairs did work out quite well yesterday. So our bias here yesterday was to look for buying opportunities, and you can see the price did manage to reach this area to the upside, hold above during the Frankfurt market open at 10 o'clock. There was an attempt to push to the upside, but not necessarily very strong during the London session open. So it seems that the London big boys not necessarily have that much money, I guess, to push it, or were not necessarily interested to push it as high. Which you can see as the price did end up giving us a pullback, holding within this particular area. Once the US market did open between 3 and 3:30, you can clearly see the price did actually start going to the upside. So you can see that's when the trade did work out. And today, the bias is still going to be looking for buying opportunities. You can see some similar correlation with the euro against the Canadian dollar. The way the price did end up coming down very aggressive after a big move to the upside. But the fact is we're still holding above this support and resistance area. We'll be waiting to see what ends up happening, but in this one, chances are we could end up either hopefully getting some sort of pullback coming in, some sort of probe, price action signal to potentially end up looking for a buying opportunity there, or be aware that the price, if you find the other euro pairs also coming down and actually holding below, chances are we could be coming back down all the way within this buyer's area before we're able to look for buying opportunities. Now, also be aware, you can clearly see we have a small support and resistance area here. You can clearly see the market seems to be bouncing and holding within this particular area. There could be a potential small buying opportunity. Ideally, if the price is able to break and hold above, I think you would be more safe, at least at that point in time, to look for buying opportunities. Yes, even though you can be able to target all the way at the top. Remember, we had pointed out the same area with the euro against the Canadian dollar, where there does seem to be some sort of small support and resistance area here. So do end up making sure you manage your trade within that location. You never know whether or not those sellers could decide to come back in. But overall, remember, as long as we're holding above the red SNR, our bias is going to be looking for buying opportunities. So moving on to the next euro pair, we do have the euro against the Swiss franc. This is actually a pair I did point out yesterday that was quite well, or at least worked out. I didn't end up also taking it, but unfortunately forgot to actually bring in the screenshot. However, remember, I can see that we wanted to see whether or not we get the price breaching and holding above. You can even see based on the illustration. It seems that's what it did during the London session, where it breached, held above to around 10 o'clock, apologies, during the Frankfurt market open. That's when the price actually started taking off to the upside. So this trade worked out quite well. Similar situation, we did get a pullback around 4:30, coming back to some support and resistance area before the price did manage to continue going up during the US session as well. So it seems this pair did work out both during the London as well as the US session. So today, the bias is going to be looking for buying opportunities. So even though the trade worked out very nicely yesterday, that doesn't mean you should just jump in on your buys right now. You can clearly see we're within an area where the sellers. So if we're within an area where the sellers, one of two things is either going to happen. Either this price is actually going to breach this area to the upside. And if we do see the price holding above, then we should be able to look for a buying opportunity then. But since we're within an area where the sellers could easily find the market actually giving us a pullback, which is ideally what I would want to see, this would be a much better trade for me, giving me a much better risk to reward, having a much smaller stop loss within that area as well. So wait to see what ends up happening. Ideally, either a pullback coming in or a breach to the upside. But we will end up having a look at the other euro pairs to see that correlation, to see whether or not those pullbacks are actually going to come in on all of them. So hope that's clear as we move on to the next and last euro pair that we do have. Right here is the euro against the Japanese yen, brand new entry on our watch list. And our bias here is to look for buying opportunities. Now, it's a similar situation with the euro against the Swiss franc, even though, yes, the price has been coming to the upside. The fact that we're within an area where the sellers, it's not a good place to look for your buying opportunities just yet. Could end up either finding the price coming down lower, holding within this particular area before you do find the price going to the upside. But also at the same time, could easily find the price actually breaching this area to the upside. And if you do see the price breaching and holding above, then there should be a buying opportunity, especially based on, if you look at how the market has reacted within this particular area. Look at the first time that the sellers came down, was very aggressive. Now the buyers did end up coming down, up, rejecting it, but now look at how the sellers are pushing to the downside. They do seem to be struggling. So the fact that they're struggling to actually make new lows, it might be them not necessarily being interested in actually giving a discount. And if a shop, or at least if you go to a store and they're not giving a discount, then guaranteed you will have to pay a higher price. So ideally, let's wait to see what ends up happening. The chances are we could get the price reaching to the upside, but that doesn't mean we might not necessarily get a pullback first before we do find the buy going on. So wait to see what ends up happening on the euro against the Japanese yen. So I hope that's clear on the euro against the yen. As we move on to the next currency pairs that we do have, so we will move on to the US dollar pairs. So starting off with the US dollar pairs, we have the US dollar against Canadian dollar. Now, this was the pair that I did manage to end up grabbing yesterday. So you can clearly see the illustration that had pointed out. We were within an area where the sellers yesterday. So we needed one of two things, either a breach to the upside or a pullback coming in. And you can see the pullback is what came in very nicely. Ended up even giving us a very nice probe, especially if I do end up going down to the 3-minute time frame. So you can be able to see a bit more detail. You can clearly see within this area, as the price was coming down, it seemed as if it was holding to the downside, but once it broke above and was holding to the upside, you can see this was around 4:30 during the New York Stock Exchange open, and that's when the market did end up taking off to the upside. So it's a similar situation today. So even though the price did manage to go up and has came down very aggressively, this is the reason why we'll always encourage, if you do manage to take a trade, always take your profit, or at least have a certain target, because the majority of the times, I know we've experienced this, where you see the market going up, then you start going to a higher time frame and saying, okay, what's the next level, thinking that the price is going to get there. Ideally, focus on your risk to reward. If the target area was within such an area, then ideally you should have managed your trade. But you can clearly see the price came down very aggressive. This move to the upside, especially if I go up to a higher time frame, you can clearly see it's just a probe. The fact that the market has tempted this area multiple times, and look at how many times it goes to the upside and comes straight back in. Goes to the upside and comes straight back in. So it's a similar situation that did end up happening yesterday. So overall, that's the reason why our levels will be within this particular area, at least focusing on this particular high. The fact that the price is so close within that seller's area, you definitely know it's not a good time to look for your buying opportunity just yet. So we need one of two things. Let's see, either we can end up getting a proper breach and hold above for us to look for buying opportunities. If we do find that, do make sure you manage your trade within this top area right there. However, since we are within an area where the sellers, don't be surprised that the market could potentially end up coming down again, potentially holding within this particular area before we do end up finding our buying opportunities. So one of those two options could happen, especially based on the fact that, yes, the seller came down very aggressive, but this is the pullback of the buyer. So there's potential that this seller, in order for him to really get tired, he might need to come down a bit slower before we maybe find the buyers actually taking off to the upside. We'll wait to see what ends up happening on this one. But right now, since we're so close within the area where the sellers, there's nothing much for us to do just yet. So the next pair we did have was the Australian dollar against the US dollar. Yesterday, our bias was to look for selling opportunities, and it is still the same situation today. You can see yesterday as we're discussing this market, the price was within the area where the buyers. So we needed to either breach the downside or a pullback. And you can see the pullback is what came in, which is definitely what we wanted. You can see the buyers coming in, starting to slow down. Initially, they were coming in very aggressive. And you can see here the next push was quite aggressive as well. But the next push, they did end up seeming to be struggling. You can see the price was within this particular area at 430. You can see from then, the price did manage to come all the way down, coming back towards the buyer's area. So you should have managed to end up taking a trade, making sure to manage your trade within there. If you do not grab a sell and actually close your trade, you can clearly see. And if your stop loss is still up there, you would have actually been stopped out with a trade that actually ended up working out. So that's the reason why we always encourage managing your trade as well. You can see we did end up getting the price coming up, giving us a probe because the price never held above that particular area. So our focus will still be on the same location, still looking for selling opportunities. We are close within the area where the sellers, but the one issue, at least the area that I would say that would be issues, is within this particular location. You can see it's some sort of support and resistance area, an area where it's probed and the buyers are holding. So potentially if you get the price breaching and holding below this buyers, you should be safer. The only problem is the target area ends up being a bit close. So let's wait to see if hopefully we can end up getting the price coming in a bit higher. Maybe these buyers that came in start struggling. And if we do end up getting some sort of global price action signal, hopefully at that time, we should be able to look for selling opportunities, but also watch out for this area where the buyers are as well. Overall, the bias is still the same. So as we move on to the next US dollar pair, right here we have the US dollar against the Swiss franc. Now, yesterday, our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. So the three areas that we did have are right there. Now, the story, what we wanted, since we were within a range, you can clearly see this market has been ranging. So we did need either one of two things, either a pullback back down towards the buyer's area or a breach and a hold to the upside. Now, it attempted to come down, could not necessarily go as low, attempted to breach, but you can see we've never actually got a hold to the upside. So that was just a probe and the price came down. But right now, we are attempting to potentially actually break this area to the upside. So in order for us to get confirmation, the same story that we had yesterday is still the same story that we're looking at today. So the fact that we are attempting now to break this edge to the upside. Remember, I had pointed out with ranges, they do end up working quite well, especially if a level has actually been broken or the range has been broken. So hopefully here, we can be able to get this price coming back in, holding above this area, especially if we see the buyers reacting within this location. We could find a very nice buying opportunity for us here on the US dollar against the Swiss franc. But remember, if the price comes back in, does not actually hold above, it actually holds below. And this ideally is just a huge probe, and you could easily find the price coming back down all the way to the bottom of the range and still taking the buy within that particular area. Because if it just ends up being a probe, it means that the range is still active. So meaning the best place to look for the buy at that time will be at the bottom of the range. So hope that's clear, at least on the US dollar against Swiss franc. As we move on to the next and last US dollar pair we do have, which is the US dollar against the Japanese yen. Now, in this kind of pair, these are brand new entry on our watch list, and our bias here is to look for buying opportunities. Now, similar situation with the US dollar against Swiss franc. Seems like we're in some sort of channel based on the fact that you can clearly see where the market was coming to the downside right here. Seemed like we were within some sort of channel, but we are starting to transition out of that particular channel. So that's a good thing because we can see the market potentially turning, but we have a very strong seller's area here, which you can clearly see how many times the price has bounced off that particular area. So overall, in this kind of pair, we will be looking for buying opportunities. Right now, we're within an area where there's sellers. So clearly, that's not a good place for us to look for our buying opportunities just yet. Sorry, let me just zoom out a bit. So remember, the main thing that we would want to see is potentially this price actually breaking this area to the upside. And if we do see the price holding above, then that will definitely end up giving us a very nice buying opportunity. We need to make sure we manage our trade within this next problem area, especially if I do end up going up to the 1 hour time frame, we will be able to see it much clearer the way the market is potentially transitioning, where it was initially in a downtrend, coming to the downside very aggressively, then started channeling, before now potentially entering into some sort of range, bouncing between these levels, not really making any new lows. So it's a similar situation. If you can get the price breaching and holding above, especially you can see how strong of a seller's area this is, then at that point in time, they will be a very good buy for us. As you can see, the next problem area ends up being a bit, or at least quite high up. So that should end up giving us some good profit potential on this pair. So I hope that's clear on all the US dollar pairs as we move on to the next kinds of pairs, which are the New Zealand dollar pairs. Now, for most of these New Zealand dollar pairs, they're brand new entries on our watch list since we did not necessarily have them yesterday. So right here, we'll start off with the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So brand new entry on our watch list. And here, our bias is going to be looking for buying opportunities. We have identified 3 areas of interest where the buys could potentially work out from. Now, price, as you can clearly see, we are within this area where the sellers. I know most of you must be wondering why are we not necessarily putting our highs all the way at the top? Because especially when you end up going up to a higher time frame, it ends up being much clearer. You can see this high that the price did end up getting to. You can clearly see how many times this market has proved. Even if it's attempted to go up, you can see it's coming back in and holding below. So this is a very major strong seller's area that we do need to watch out for. So that's the reason why for now, we'll wait to see one of two things. Either we'll end up getting this pullback coming in, potentially within this support and resistance area, for us to look for our buying opportunities, especially if we do see some sort of probe or price action signal within that particular area. We could find the price actually breaking this area to the upside. And if we do find the price holding above, yes, we can be able to look for a buying opportunity, but you do need to make sure you manage your trade within that particular high, because you can clearly see how many times the market has actually probed that area. But if we do find confirmation that the price is actually broken this support and resistance area, then at that point in time, we should be good to go to look for those buying opportunities. But for right now, let's just be a bit patient. Let's wait to see what ends up happening on the New Zealand dollar against the Canadian dollar. So the next New Zealand dollar pair we do have is the Australian dollar against the New Zealand dollar. Brand new entry on our watch list. You can see this market has been coming to the downside. So overall, we can clearly see the Australian dollar weakness, or at the same time, the New Zealand dollar strength. So you can clearly see in terms of market structure, we do seem to be in some sort of range, bouncing between these two levels right here. So obviously the best place to look for yourself would be at the top of the range right here. But we wait to see what ends up happening. You can see if you follow the story of the buyers, the way the buyers were pushing to the upside, you can see the next push of the buyers there. Right now, the buyers seem to be here, and you can see this is a very major, strong support and resistance area. So there's potential that the price could maybe end up coming to the downside and holding below. If it does that, we might find the sells coming in. But there's also the potential that since the fact that when the price came to the downside, as you can see, we came down, we got a pullback. Price managed to get within this area and it attempted to come down. But the fact that we could not make a new low, there's potential that we need a better price than this. So don't be surprised. And that's usually what happens when you find the market actually deciding to actually give you some sort of probe. It incites people to look for the buy, it stops people out, then you find the price actually coming back in and holding below. If you do end up seeing something similar to that, then definitely you know it was just there to incite a few more people to look for buys before the sells are able to come in. Usually the prices that end up going for a better price usually have a higher probability of actually making new lows. But we'll wait to see what ends up happening. You still need to manage your trade within these problem areas. So we move on to the next New Zealand dollar pair we do have. So right here, brand new entry on our watch list, we have the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. So similar situation, if we're looking at market structure, should be one of the important things. We do seem to be in some sort of range. So the market does seem to potentially be transitioning. You can see we had been coming to the downside, but the trend to the downside did stop due to the fact that we started making the same lows and the same highs. So we're transitioning to some sort of range. So the best thing for us to wait for is actually a breach of the range. So if we do end up seeing that, so wait to see one of two things. Either the prices actually break this area to the upside and see it holding above, then we should be able to find a very nice buying opportunity. But due to the fact that we're within a range and we're within an area where the sellers, don't be surprised if the price is still able to come all the way back down to the buyers before we're able to look for those buying opportunities. So for right now, we just need to be a bit patient. Let's wait to see whether or not we can get that breach coming to the upside. And if we do see that, then we should be comfortable looking for a buying opportunity there. So hope that's clear as we move on to the next and last New Zealand dollar pair we do have, which is the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. Now, we did have this kind of pair yesterday, although our bias yesterday was to look for selling opportunities. And you can see the three areas I had highlighted. Now, it's a similar situation with all the other yen pairs. We saw that they managed to end up giving us a pullback throughout the London session, managed to get back to a major seller's area, and you can see that was at exactly 430, which did end up giving us some multiple trading opportunities. However, the price managed to come back down within the first support and resistance area, gave two probes like we've seen on all the other yen pairs. But the fact is, the fact that it was probing just showed us confirmation that that level was still holding. Now, the fact is New Zealand dollar and the Japanese yen have both switched their bias today. So we will still be looking at this kind of pair. However, today we will be looking for buying opportunities on this pair. So right now, the fact that within an area where the sellers, definitely not a good place to look for yourselves, your buying opportunities just yet. Let's wait to see if we can potentially get the price coming back in within this buyer's area, maybe giving us some sort of other probe or price action signal before we're able to find the buying opportunity coming in. But be aware, due to the fact that these sellers, similar story where you can clearly see how aggressive the sellers came down the first time, but this time after the buyers challenge them again, they don't seem to be interested. I think the saying goes, if you own a shop and there are many people looking to buy, are you really going to give a discount? In fact, chances are if you only have 5 items and there are 10 people, you will end up actually increasing the price. So that's exactly what you might end up seeing here, where the sellers gave a discount, but there were so many buyers coming in. And right now, they're not interested in giving a discount because they know people still want it. And there's a possibility that the price could actually end up breaking this area to the upside. And if, remember, if it holds above, we could find a buying opportunity available for us. So let's wait to see what ends up happening. So if we do get the price breaching and holding above this area, then we should be able to find a very nice buying opportunity available for us on the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. So hope that's clear on all the New Zealand dollar pairs as we move on to the next and last currency pairs that we will be looking at, which are the British pound pairs, before we do look at the indices, then move on to gold and silver. So right here, we'll start off with the British pound against the Canadian dollar, brand new entry on our watch list, and our bias here is to look for buying opportunities. Now, we have seen something similar coming in with all the Canadian dollar pairs, where they did end up showing us a lot of weakness yesterday, but they came down very, very aggressive. However, you can clearly see most of them are within the same areas. think if you can see the British pound against the Canadian dollar, the euro against the Canadian dollar, you can see they do look quite correlated with each other. So it definitely has something to do with the Canadian dollar. Now, the fact that we've gotten a pullback, we do seem to be holding within this area, could potentially find some sort of buying opportunity. Hopefully, we end up getting some sort of probe or price action signal for us to look for buying opportunities here. Do make sure you manage your trade within this location. And if we are able to get the price breaching and holding above this location, then we should be able to look for buys. But remember, that same height that we've been looking at, do make sure you manage your trade within that location as well. But remember as well that we will still be looking for buys as long as we're holding above this red support and resistance area. You can see these are the buyers who did manage to push the price up. This was during the US session open. So the price is able to come down lower, breaches and falls below this area. Then you definitely know those buyers in the US are no longer interested in buying. And at that point in time, even you should not be looking for buying opportunities, and that's why it would end up falling off our watch list. Now, hope that's clear as we move on to the next British pound pair. So it's a similar situation, brand new entry on our watch list. Right here, we have the British pound against the Australian dollar. And here, we're meant to be looking for buying opportunities. You can see the price has been coming to the upside. In fact, most of the British pound pairs have been showing us a lot of strength coming to the upside for quite a bit. So right here, the fact that we're within a major seller's area, or at least in the middle of these two levels, that's nothing much for us to do, except for wait for one of two things. Either wait for this pullback to come in within the support and resistance area for us to look for buying opportunities there, or we'll end up waiting to see whether or not the price can actually breach this area to the upside for us to look for buying opportunities then. But for right now, based on the fact that we're just in the middle of these areas right here, there's nothing for us to do. We need either more sellers to be incited, or the buyers to actually show themselves before we're able to continue looking for those buying opportunities on this kind of pair. So this one, nothing much for us to do just yet. Let's wait to see whether or not we can get some big movements coming in. So moving on to the next pair we do have. So brand new entry on our watch list right here is the British pound against the Swiss franc. Now, our bias here is to look for buying opportunities. We can clearly see with the area that we're at, we have been getting pushes to the upside, pullbacks. Right now, we're putting a push to the upside. So let's hope to see if we can end up getting this pullback coming in within this support and resistance area, maybe inciting a few more people to look for selling opportunities before we're able to find those buying opportunities on this pair. Now, one area to notice, or at least to take note of, is within this small support and resistance area. There's potential that maybe the price may not necessarily get all the way down here. This would be my hope for the price to come down, because that would give much better risk to reward, as well as the fact that it would have incited many people to start looking for selling opportunities at that time. So be aware. You do find the price approaching here, then you see some sort of reaction, and it's not necessarily a strong reaction. You could end up easily finding that's just something to incite people to look for buys. So everyone has their stop losses within here. And don't be surprised now the price starts coming down later. In this one, you just need to be patient. Let's wait to see what kind of pullback comes in. And once the sellers slow down and the buyers show some interest, that's when we will be looking for those buying opportunities on the British pound against the Swiss franc. Now, last but not least, we do have the British pound against the Japanese yen. Now, we did have this kind of pair yesterday. Our bias here was to look for selling opportunities, and you can see the price where it was within an area where the sellers did point out that we needed either some sort of probe or price action signal within this first support and resistance area. But you can see the price managed to continue going up, came back to our main sellers area. You can see the area that we had highlighted. We did end up getting multiple probes. So you can see at 3, attempted to do the same thing at around 430 as we've seen with the other yen pairs. But this price has not really been able to come much down lower. And you can see based on the fact that the British pound and the Japanese yen, the fundamentals did come out to changing their biases, then ideally this pair did end up falling off our watch list completely later on yesterday. But the fact is it's still going to be on our watch list today, since both the pairs have switched their fundamentals. So we'll be now looking for buying opportunities. But it's a similar situation. We are within an area where the sellers, so we need one of two things to happen. Either a breach to the upside. So you could end up either finding this price actually breaching this area to the upside due to the fact that you're seeing the sellers are not necessarily showing that much strength, but that doesn't mean the price might not necessarily go down. So we could end up waiting for that, or waiting to see if the price can end up actually giving us some sort of pullback. We'll watch out for this first support and resistance area, see what kind of reaction we do get. If we do not see anything within here, remember the price can come back down all the way to the red SNR before we're able to look for those buying opportunities on the British pound against the Japanese yen. So I hope that's clear on all the currency pairs. As you can see, we'll mix and match all the pairs on the buy side with the pairs on the sell side. So right now we're going to have a look at the indices. before we do look at gold and silver. So we'll start off with the NAS 100. So yesterday on the NASDAQ, our bias here was to look for selling opportunities. It is still the same situation today. We'll pretty much be respecting the same areas. As you can clearly see, the market has not really gone anywhere just yet. So yesterday, our bias to look for sales did end up working out. You can see the market ended up giving us a pullback, coming back within this trade, or at least close to where the area that we did end up having. But if you do note the time at 3 o'clock, that's when the market did end up starting to go to the downside. 4:30, we got a small pullback, but it didn't manage to get all the way back down towards the main buyer's area before the buyers did end up reacting quite aggressively. However, you can clearly still see the market is still reacting within those areas. And that's the reason why, if you're looking at the market structure, you can definitely tell we are within a range, bouncing between these two levels. If that's the case, the best place to look for yourself would be at the top of the range. In similar situations, since these markets have been coming down quite aggressively, don't be surprised if we are able to get the price actually continuing to come down lower. If we do end up finding that and the price reaches and falls below, then we should be able to look for selling opportunities then. Now, one reason why we do not encourage you looking for sales right now is always, the one thing we keep on mentioning is risk to reward. If you're going to hide your stop loss, you need to have to be all the way at the top there. And your target just being in this first problem area, you only get a 0.5 R, which does not make sense. You need to end up having a very good win rate if that is the case. So in this situation, let's wait to see either pullback coming in or wait for a break. You do need to be patient. I know they say patience really pays, especially in trading. Don't necessarily just rush into any trade. You're not seeing everything you need to see. You don't need to take it. You can end up focusing on the next pair. So moving on to the Dow Jones. Yesterday on the Dow Jones, our bias was to look for selling opportunities. It is still the same situation today. You can see the sales did work out quite well. You can see we managed to get a pullback coming in. Price was still holding within this area. Wanted to see some sort of incitement, and you can see there was a small incitement where the price did attempt to go to the upside. And if you do look at the time at 3, that's when aggressive sellers started coming in. Those are pullback, as you can clearly see. Those are small SNR right here. That once it was breached and the price held below, you can clearly see the price did manage to take off to the downside, managing to continue. If you did manage to miss that trade, you can clearly see how many times we got a pullback within that area before the price attempted to continue going to the downside. So today, the bias is still going to be looking for selling opportunities on this pair. We'll be focusing on these 3 areas. You can clearly see this market does seem to be trending to the downside. We do have a support and resistance area here. So we wait to see whether or not we can end up either one, getting a pullback to come in. So it's a similar situation with the NASDAQ based on the fact that we're just in the middle of these 2 areas. So we need the price either come up to the upside, give us some sort of global price action signal within such an area, or we end up actually getting the price reaching this area to the downside. And if we do see the price holding below, and at that point in time, we should be able to continue looking for selling opportunities on the Dow Jones. But remember, we will still be looking for sales as long as we're holding below this red SNR. So the price can still give us a pullback the whole day, coming back to this red SNR. So until it actually breaks and holds above this area, we will still be looking for selling opportunity. So hope that is clear on the US 30 or the Dow Jones as we move on to the fan favorites, silver and gold. Now, on silver, yesterday our bias was to look for buying opportunities. And you can see the thing that we did point out, and I had also pointed out yesterday. I know most people must have been wondering, why are we still looking for buys even though the price came down? Remember, these levels we've had for multiple days. And the fact is the price managed to still come back to the main buyers area. And as long as we're still holding above there, the bias was still to look for buying opportunities. This definitely was there to incite people to start looking for selling opportunities, which is definitely what we wanted. Incited enough sellers, and that gave it enough strength to actually start attempting to make new highs. So you can clearly see the market did work out during the Frankfurt market open, as well as the US market open, but hoping to see more of a pullback coming in. You can see that was just around 4:30 before the New York Stock Exchange opened, before it did manage to continue going to the upside. Now, the reason why today our levels will pretty much remain the same, even though you're seeing the price has gone up a bit higher, is especially when you go up to a higher time frame, it does make things slightly clearer about whether or not a level has been broken. So you can clearly see we're within this major strong sellers area. This price has been holding for quite a bit. So just because the price has gone to the upside, we have not yet got confirmation that this price is actually going to hold above this area. You could easily find if the price, since it's gone to the upside, if it comes back in and holds below, then we are still respecting these same areas, because this whole move would have been fake and we will still be within this buyer zone. So overall, we will be waiting to see what ends up happening. So right now, if we do actually get the price holding to the upside, so if we get some sort of global price action signal, we see confirmation that the price is actually holding above this area, then at that point in time, you can be able to look for your buying opportunities. Make sure you manage your trade within this blue SNR, within that high. You do not know whether or not the price is going to actually make a new high. But if the price comes in lower and it holds below, then chances are we could even be getting the price coming back within the support and resistance area a bit deeper before we're able to look for those buying opportunities. Remember, this market was in a range for quite a while, so maybe we might be jumping back into that range. You never know. So wait to see what ends up happening on silver. So hope that's clear as we move on to the next and last kind of pair we do have, which is gold. Now on gold yesterday, it's a similar situation with silver. Overall, we were within a buyer zone based on the fact that the market had been, remember we keep on pointing this red support and resistance area. As long as we're holding above it, we'll still be looking for buys. And you can see the price did manage to come back down, attempt to challenge this particular buyer, but the fact that the price was still holding above, you can clearly see the price managed to continue going up. Now we had pointed out this support and resistance area where the price did look, we're hoping to see whether or not we could end up getting the price either coming down lower or breaching this area to the upside. And we can see it did manage to breach this area to the upside. Unfortunately, we did not get that pullback coming in within here. It seems like it found some sort of small support and resistance area here where these sellers were actually breached. So that's exactly just where it pushed down to. Unfortunately, I missed that trade as well. But you can see the price did manage to get all the way back to the main sellers area. So today, the bias is still going to be looking for buying opportunities. You can clearly see we are still respecting the same areas that we did have yesterday. So the fact that we're within an area where the sellers, we definitely know the game plan right now. Do not look for your buying opportunities just yet. Wait for one or two things, either the pullback to come in. So hopefully we can end up getting this pullback coming down within the support and resistance area before we're able to find those buying opportunities. But remember, alternatively, if the price ends up getting a lot of strength and you find it reaching this area to the upside, remember, if you do get the price holding above, then we should be able to look for buying opportunities as well on gold. So I hope that's clear in all the kinds of pairs. As you can see, we'll mix and match all the pairs on the buy side with the pairs on the sell side, including the indices. So I guess that is it from me. Let's see if there are any questions in the chat box. I'm not seeing any, which is okay. Hope you guys have found value in this session. Remember, guys, if you do need any education, any setups, at least more information on how to improve on your trading, feel free to reach out to us. Our contact details are there in the video description. We are here to help. We are doing this for you guys because one thing we realize is we just do this for ourselves and we just maybe enter one or two trades, but realizing that we come back and so many trades work and we realize this information definitely can be of value to other people, not just us, where there's plenty of money to be made in this market. And that's the reason why we do what we do. So if you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to drop a like. Make sure you do subscribe and ring that bell notification. It does end up helping us out a lot. And ideally, it is free of charge. So once again, thank you guys so much. Hope you have an amazing trading day. God bless. Happy trading. And bye for now. Cheers.